Well, hello everyone. We're here live again midday in the Woodshop with Brad.
Hey
How's
everybody.
How you doing today?
Oh, it's going good. I'm tired, but making progress, and that makes me happy. So I just finished wrapping up another batch of 20 pallets, and so that makes 40.
I noticed you
Uh,
moved those out of there.
40 done now. I'll give you a look. See, this is kind of preview of the vlog, right? Because all this stuff's going to be on the vlog. So you got Woodshop here, and so that's all the pallets over in the corner. So
Yeah.
it's 8 high, and then these are 8 high and 8 high. So there's 16 in the big stacks.
So you're moving right along. You're getting it done. Look, there's Ian at lunch. We did it just because we knew you'd be eating your peanut butter and jelly sandwich right about now.
Is Ian on?
Yeah, he's in the chat.
Hey, boss. You like your pallets?
They're getting done.
And then just to whack more
So
plywood, more 2x4s, more runners back here. I'm doing. Let's see, get out of the way over here. So just doing that part. I'm not doing the tops. I'm doing the bottoms right now.
I have cream and banana.
Ice cream and banana.
Well, we talk a lot about woodworking on here, but I think, gosh, one of the things that I wish I would have done better when I first started beekeeping is really come up with what were my goals to beekeeping, right? And that's a hard one when you first start, because you just don't know when you start how addicted you're going to be to it and how much you're going to enjoy it, and how many stings you can take, stuff like that. So
it is. It's hard to do. Of course, when I started, I did have goals because I started it as this is going to be my job. So I had to have certain things. This is for profit. This is for income. This is full time. So it was a little easier for me that way. And talk about Ian. That's kind of why I gravitated toward him, because he was in the group of people who shared my, I always say, goals and objectives, right?
Right.
Because Ian's trying to do this as a job. He's trying to do this to make a living. And I'm not making a living at this point, but I'm profitable. So I found that when I would try to learn from beekeepers, there's certain things I could learn from beekeeping from just about anybody. But when I would talk about the business of beekeeping, I'd have to talk to people who shared those goals, because there's so many different ways to do this. And I'm not saying one sector is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that I needed to get mentorship from people who shared those goals, right? Which yeah. Oh yeah, it's miserable right now. It's not very warm. It's been raining. It's cold and rainy. That's
well, I mean, it's just such a big thing, right? So I'm learning here that I don't have the land available to me currently to expand to the point to where I can make as much honey as I need for my customers, right? That's becoming very apparent to me. I have a bigger demand than I have a supply. So one of two things either has to happen. Either I have to grow my supply, which runs into typical livestock issues, right? And you just don't know the depths of depravity you're going to have to go through every year, right? So It's like, well, all right, so you're going to have winter loss, and you don't know what that winter loss is. So you don't know how much money you have to put into it to get your bees up to where they might produce you one box of honey in the first year, right here. Now, everywhere is different, right? For you, it's not usually an issue, but here it is an issue.
Well, but it's still it's really the same, because that's my problem, is not like, I've got some land and I've got people who I can use, landowners I can use for out yards, but my challenge is production, because I haven't marketed honey in probably about 7 years, and the demand is there and the honey sells. So if I could produce more honey, then I could sell more honey.
I have marketed zero, other than a couple Facebook when I have it out on the curb. That's it.
And as most people watching will know, right now my problem is
bees. Kind of hard to make honey when you have no bees to produce them for.
So that kind of goes to the heart of production. I got no bees.
Well, and then every year, like the joke at the beginning of the year was 17 every year. It doesn't matter if I put 1,000 in, I got 17 afterwards, right? So it's like, it just gets to the point to where I find that I'm dumping more money into producing honey that's still not enough honey for the customers that I have coming to buy it. So it becomes, at what point do you switch and say, yes, I love keeping bees, I'm gonna keep bees, but it's more profitable to move into something like
that's the problem. Most of us just love keeping bees, and you can kind of get lost in it. Let me know if this bothers the audio too much.
That's louder than normal with the drill there, or the screw gun, but it's not bad. But the thing is that, my goals seem to always be changing. So at that point, is it a goal even? I mean, you're going to have short-term goals, but then what's the overall picture look like?
Yeah, you got to know what you're trying to accomplish, and then you set those goals, and
accordingly.
You got to have small goals. I mean, my daily goals are just that. I'll say, well, what do I want to accomplish today? Because here's my list of priorities, and here's the things that need to get done. And this build is a very important thing, but sometimes it gets pushed back because it's not necessarily the most urgent thing, which is terrible, because then I don't get the important thing done. That's a big danger. Always doing urgent, because urgent isn't always important. It just sounds like it's important at the time.
Right. Well, that's what I've been going through with these frames, right? It's like, well, I've been jumping through hoops trying to clean these frames and foundations and re-wax them, but it's not a thing. In my mind, it's important, but when you go out and look at the bees, I've got a little bit of time to still do that, but when you're trying to,
just off camera here, I can hear you.
Okay, when you're trying to accommodate a customer base that you've built up over 5, 6 years or something like that, it's a it like you said, your biggest thing was not necessarily that you lost your bees, it's that the customers that you have built up, you feel like you need to be able to supply them. And I agree. I'm the same way, right? A loyalty to the customer. Nothing feels worse to me to walk out and tell a customer, I'm not going to have honey for 2 months or whatever, So it's figuring out what I have to do to get to that point. And I just never know, right? Like, I've got some colonies out there that I know right now. I mean, I haven't shaken them out. I mean, they're doing a little bit, but I know those queens are going to die here real soon. Do you want me to add the other one in, or you?
No.
Okay.
I'm here.
No, they don't. Where I'm at, they don't grow much of anything, because the farmer land that was within the flight of my bees has been getting sold in the last couple years, and they've been developing it into homes. So a lot of that stuff has gone away. I did have the strawberry fields come in, and I mean, you can go out there and pick strawberries today if you wanted to. I'm not standing out in 83 degree, 88 degree heat and picking strawberries, but you could go over there and pick them today. So it's just one of those things that it seems like as things are getting developed around me, I have less and less forage for the bees, which obviously affects the honey, right? And then you've got, the other side of it where, the wax moths destroyed your comb, so now you have to draw 400 frames of foundation. That's going to eat into your honey crop. And it just, every year I feel like it's going to be a good honey crop. Like this year I was all hyped because things were the temperatures have been kind of moderate to mild and haven't been bad, and things are blooming like crazy. But now they're using that nectar to build wax instead of storing. So,
well, yeah. And let's talk about that, Bob, because I got some things to say about that. And I may be wrong, but I questioned our PA one day on that. He said this thing about the cost of building wax. And I said, I don't think that's true. And he said, it's true. It was done as a controlled study. Now, I'm going to say that it wasn't, I think he said it was 7 pounds, but it wasn't honey.
It was nectar.
There's a lot of water in nectar, right? Nectar is 80% water. So you boil that down to 18% honey, that's a heck of a lot less. And how much is a pound of wax? How many frames of comb is a pound of wax? Well, I don't know.
Right.
When I roll wax on frames, I'm rolling a pound of wax on every 10 frames. So that's a box. And I'm talking deeps, okay?
Right.
So that's a box. So I'm going to say there's 2 to 3 pounds of wax in a box. I'm going out on a limb. I've always been going to, weigh it out and measure to see what is, how much weight there is in wax drawn comb. So I would encourage people to not get too, as worried about that as kind of it sounds. I don't believe it's as big a deal as what sometimes it sounds like. Well, it takes 10 pounds of honey to make a pound of. Well, it doesn't.
Right? I don't know that Robert's watching this now, but he might show up and watch it. But for me, I get overly critical on things sometimes, and I know people on the channel know that. But I feel hypocritical, so I'm going to say that because, goals change, right? Directions change. Maybe your focus changes. You find a better way or something that works better for you. And I was kind of critical of them the other night because I work off of what people tell me, and I only get a small snapshot, right? So when I'm talking to them. So when someone says, well, my goal is to make honey to put my kids through college, then that's what I work off of forever until it changes, till you tell me something's changed, right? So when somebody, says, well, I might just wholesale my honey, well, maybe that's the best money-making opportunity for them. And it doesn't apply in my world, right? So I will apologize if I came off a little abrasive about that situation the other night, but that's again, that's just working off of what I've been told in the past. And if someone says something and it doesn't kind of follow suit with that, then I kind of challenge it sometimes. And I
I
don't.
think that's one of the things that really keeps this whole, my wife says, how can you guys just talk bees all the time? And it's sort of, yeah. And I've questioned that because, we all want to talk bees all the time. And I think it's because there's so many variables, there's so many approaches, there's so many different goals and objectives. And, I know when my mentor has told me things over the years, I trust him and I believe him, but I always got to take what he tells me and put it in the context of who I am, what are my particular goals, what are my capabilities, what infrastructure do I have at hand, the size of my apiary, my workforce, which is this guy.
Right.
So I always have to take that. So I need to take what he tells me, say, okay, he's telling me to do this to accomplish such and such. So how can I do that in my own way to accomplish such and such? Quite often it works, and sometimes I do change it a little and try to accomplish that thing, and it doesn't work. Then I always just have to go back to what he said and said, do this. And well, okay, maybe I changed the critical variables there in that process. But we all have to find our own path in this.
Right.
We do. And I don't think anybody has anything to apologize for in that context.
Well,
There's a lot of things that people do that don't make no sense to me, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, and I think what you said is very key as far as, even if you watch a YouTube video, if someone's doing something, it may or may not even apply to your area, or you're doing something that maybe your bees aren't quite as strong as those bees that were in the video, or, all different things. Where are they located? What time are they doing it? And
Absolutely.
most importantly, something you say is the first question you need to ask is, what am I trying to accomplish by doing that?
Right.
You have to know that, right?
Yeah. People ask me stuff all the time. They'll say, well, I want to do this, and this is, is this how I do that? My first question would be, why are you doing that? Like, fill me in on that. What are you trying to accomplish? Because maybe it's not apparent to me what your goals are. So fill me in on the rest of the story here.
Well, that's usually the part that we don't always get. Or I've been asked it before, and I haven't had a good answer, right? Well, why do you want to do that? I don't know. Just seemed like a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Well, he did it.
You don't have a good answer.
Right.
I think you need to go back to step one and say, well, why am I doing that?
Right. Yeah. That's the thing I think that we lose a lot in YouTube, right? We watch a video and, oh, that's pretty cool. That worked out really nice for him. But you don't know what he was trying to accomplish with it.
No.
I say he because more than likely it's the male beekeeper you're watching.
And that beekeeper may, in the way they talk, assume that whatever they are doing applies to everybody. I know a lot of people do. A lot of people do that. Well, this is the way to do it. And therefore you should do what I'm doing. Well, yeah, it's not. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, here I can make, like you said, you could take a 1-frame split and it'll straight out and fill up a whole box, right?
Yeah.
I haven't had that experience here.
I made last year. I made some 1-frame splits in 6-frame nukes, and they swarmed the second week of July.
Yeah, I don't get that here. It's a much slower buildup for whatever reason. So, not and barnyard bees does it all the time, right? 1-frame split and a starter strip, and here you go. And
yeah,
I tried it and it did not work. Did not come out well for me. I'll just say that.
I'm glad it worked for me because our season is so short and resources are so few. To get queens and to get nukes, to get packages here in May. Really hard to do. So the fact that I can take one frame in, I could probably do this anytime before the 15th of May, 10th of May, maybe. And take that one frame of brood. And if people are wondering, what do we mean one frame split? One frame of brood and a shake of bees. So you take the frame that the bees are on into your nuke, take another nice frame of bees, shake it in there, close the lid, put a mated queen in there, caged queen, slow introduction, the whole thing. And yeah, those will make honey.
Oh yeah. Well, I
So
won't
I'm
do it
glad,
here.
because it doesn't take me 3 to 4 frames of brood to actually make some honey.
Right.
But I can do more. Right.
But yeah, it's one of those things that definitely when you watch, I do it all the time. I'll watch videos and be like, no, I don't know why that guy's doing that. I would have done it this other way. Not that his way was wrong. Their way was wrong at all. It's just not.
Sometimes it's wrong. Let's face it. Sometimes
yeah, well, sometimes it is. But sometimes what I do is wrong, right? So
yeah. Sometimes what I do is wrong too, and that's when my bees die.
But this year's been pretty good on the bee front for me so far with what I've got. They seem to be all building up nicely and packing out, and so far the only thing I've used is the tablet for treatment. And when I make a new colony or a nuke comes in the yard, they get one right away to try to knock any critters that might be in there down. And it's working so far.
Awesome.
It works until it don't work, right? That's what we say.
It works until it doesn't work. Yeah.
And as long as it's working, that's where I'm going. That's what I'm going to do. But yeah, today's been, I already went out and went through a couple colonies. I started some of those nukes that I got. They're in double deep, so started shaking some bees down, putting excluder on them, and letting them backfill the second deep, right? And they've got a good amount of stores in there already, but I'm not trying to overtax them and give them too much room, right? So they're doing all right. So that's one of the things I've learned through doing these lives and hanging out with you guys about. Shake all those bees down, put the brood up so the bees come up, and then shake the bees down, put the excluder on, and let them start working through that excluder.
Yeah, that's a good system. That's a good system. That I definitely learned from Ian.
Someone's asking about the tablets here. Grab a pack. Do I have any loosies hanging around somewhere? I have some loose in a box. But it's this right here.
But using that system is a great way to make splits too.
So, I've heard a lot of erroneous comments about the tablet too. People saying don't grab them in your fingers. I've literally had one of these in my mouth. I mean,
I've handled them too. I'm not sure what that was all about.
I have had no bad results with burning my skin or anything like that. So I don't know what they're talking about. But this is a supplement that's sold. It's got thymol in it and compressed sugar. And the bees eat it and walk on it and do everything else. And, got vitamins and minerals in it and essential oils, and it's supposed to promote bee health, and it does help with some critters in the colony, which I have a whole between bread, screwing
Sorry, guys. This is Woodshop Live, though, after all, right?
But it's a um, I'll tell you what I've noticed in my colonies. I've been putting them in since last September. Immediately, I realized how out of control my mites were. Immediately, using that, and then I've noticed a lack of hive beetles in my colony. So I'm not saying 100% none, but compared to a normal year, you might as well say it's none. I'm talking where I used to see 20 to 40 of them just walking around on the frames, I see like 2 or maybe 3. And that's right underneath the foamy, right? When I peel the foamy off, they're right up on top, the Reflectex. So I'm happy with them right now. Now, I haven't had any colonies die due to using them, and I haven't used any other treatment since putting them on. So we'll see. This will be a test, for sure.
Yeah.
All
like anything new, right?
I do know for a fact, 100%, that the colony, the very first colony that I noticed anything in, that was pretty much dead bees walking at the time, is now my strongest colony out there. I mean,
is that right?
Yeah, after we got off the little chat last night, Brad, I went out there with the thermal camera, and there's heat signature all the way up to the top. I mean, they're just bees everywhere in that thing.
That's remarkable.
So it's now I will say I did have a competitor that was very mean, but it also got an appy tablet, and they got broke down. So it would have been a toss between the two, but they both were treated with the appy tablet, and they just one was really mean that I had to break up and dissolve. So, it was terrible. So let me see. 12 8-frame nuke hive. That's a lot of frames of bees. But other than that, I mean, I went through a couple colonies today and got sweaty and then came back inside. Oh, Brad says my colonies are doing great with the appy tablet. I love them. So he's down in Louisiana.
Oh, that's Louisiana. Hey, Louisiana, Brad.
It's I mean, Brad, did you treat them with anything else, or is that the only thing that you've had in there? Because I've still got some. Yeah, I did. I mean, I had wax moss in my honey house flying around, lots of them, and I put a UV bug zapper inside the honey house. So I'm gonna see if that knock them down. I didn't do anything in there yesterday. I went in and out a few times, but for the most part, stayed dark to let that little UV black attract them, hopefully, to get them gone. So today I'll go in there and probably wax the rest of these frames and just get one less thing knocked off the list. I got the tote drained out and off the back of the truck. I still got a lot of those migratory covers sitting in there, but hopefully if these nukes build up like I'm hoping they will in the next couple weeks, that I'll be able to start moving them over to some bigger colonies, and we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, they're all cleaned off and just ready for fresh wax, which the wax is melted. I've got it on warm. I just need to go roll it on. Brad, have you noticed how long your queens are actually, I should just call them Cajun. So down in Louisiana, how long your queens are actually staying viable?
Weather down good there? Question. We talked about that the other night. Good question.
So that's, we're noticing that in the cooler climates, they're lasting, what, 2 years? Well, you said you've had them last longer than that, though.
Oh, yeah. Like I'd say half of mine last 3 years. And then there's the odd one that'll go 4. And when I say 3 years, I mean into the 3rd year. Three winters.
And then you're replacing them after that. Now, have you ever done just drop the cell in a colony and let the virgin come out and kill the queen and do her thing, or do you pretty much?
I haven't done that as a rule. I may have done that, but I don't think I've done that as a rule.
Pretty much zombie her and then.
Yeah, I have gotten some really good value out of zombie nukes, so I tend to do that instead. Yeah, I remember Ian telling me that that's a good way to go. Just drop a cell and walk away,
and let them do their own thing to get it figured out.
Dirty work for you.
So your goal is to get 20 completed today as well?
Oh, I doubt it. I mean, I've worked quite a while already. I trimmed all those 20, and then I hold them all outside one at a time, wrap them up in stacks. So that was half my day already. And then I had to sort all my parts around to get access to things.
Right.
The constant battle. My shop is not very big, as you know. You get me and all my tools and all my supplies and everything in here one time. I've got a woodshop tip coming up here, so I got to change my tube of glue here. I'm going to cut it off. Cut the tip off there like that.
Right.
I got the part I cut off. Save that.
It's a lid.
Because when you're done for the day, you stick that back in there. You can kind of put something on it to hold it in, but that holds the glue and it keeps it from drying out in the tip, because if you just leave it, the glue will dry in here and be very hard to get out. So I'll save that little tip.
So you're saying you give it just the tip?
It's a tip.
It's a tip on giving it just the tip.
It's a family show. It's a family show, Bob.
They're at school. They should be at school right now, the kids.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how many I'll get done today. I wasn't feeling very good this morning, so I didn't come out very early.
Yesterday you were up way early.
Yeah. Yesterday I got an early start. So we just take it a day at a time. I got to get the boss's equipment done though, and I say that because I'm pressuring myself on that. He's definitely patient with me on the orders. I'm thankful for that.
That's why we do these lives, just to show Ian you're still working on them.
Yeah, I'm actually working. It's like, shut up.
But you're getting them done. That's the main thing.
Getting them done. I don't know if he's still watching.
It's probably back at it already.
Yeah, I don't know what's it's yesterday was actually pretty nice here, but today is just kind of pissy. There we go. Well, I go through a lot of these. I think I build 7 pallets per tube. I think. No, I use 7 tubes to build 20 pallets. That's how it was. So 3.5. Yeah, so a third of a tube per pallet is what I'm using these for, and that works out to about 30, 35 tubes this season alone.
Looks like Barnyard Bees just put out a new video.
Yeah.
He says he can crowd a 2-frame nuke to produce swarm cells.
Okay.
You could also graft 45 cells in about 20 minutes.
Oh,
if you
5 minutes, yeah.
About 5 minutes, right?
Yeah. But whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you want to do, it's not wrong.
Well, he also works a full-time job at a factory, I think, or somewhere. I'm not sure what he does.
Yeah. Well, see, that's exactly a really good example of taking a principle and then making it work for yourself.
Yeah, he uses PL Premium, which is essentially like liquid nails, I think. Maybe better than liquid nails, but
I'm not sure what liquid nails is. It's a polyurethane glue, and it'll glue almost anything to anything. It's about $10 for that tube. So, did I tell you I have $350 with a PL Premium for the season? Yep. That is what it is, right? But no expense spared for my buddy, right? Gotta make good product.
Jim says it's the best. It says it's the best bond ever.
I think when people build stuff like retaining walls, I've seen them use it between the bricks to bond the bricks together. Now, I don't think it bonds the bricks together, perfectly, but I think it is I've seen it.
At least a placeholder till everything settles in, probably.
Yeah, it's a pretty good bond. It's a pretty good bond. So, who's asking about? I can't see the chat from that.
Cajun Homestead asks what's the name of the tube, and then Jim said it's PL Premium.
Yeah, that's right. And I did one year. I bought my hardware store house brand of the same, quote product, and it just about killed me because it stank so bad. It was very strong, a lot of off gas from it. My whole shop was just stinky.
Right.
It saved me a lot of money, but I couldn't stand to work with it. This stuff, hardly any aroma at all. Hardly any. But boy, you don't get it on you. Oh. Whatever it gets on, it's staying on there forever.
Tom said Brad, it bonds concrete so much sometimes the concrete breaks trying to pry it apart.
Is that right? That's really good. I think the only thing it won't bond polystyrene. It just eats through it. It's got a chemical in it that eats polystyrene. Not much will bond polystyrene. And I know for sure it won't bond polyethylene because there's nothing in the universe will bond polyethylene. Absolutely nothing. The only way to bond polyethylene is a mechanical heat weld. So you're bonding it with polyethylene, right?
See a bunch of people getting swarming during the honey flow in their area, which is something I typically don't have, because usually first thing in the I'm trying to take steps immediately, right?
Yeah.
To keep that down.
I kind of got kicked last summer by quite a few swarms. I hate that because it's a lot of work for no reason, and you lose so much production. You know, but it happens to all of us, right? The best beekeepers around, they'll still have swarms.
Oh yeah. Well, you're trying to walk a fine line, right?
Oh yeah.
You're trying to keep the bees just strong enough not to swarm.
Yep. Yep. Right
up
to that line,
just the right area.
That line will vary colony to colony, right? Because swarm impulse does have a genetic component.
Well, I mean, that's their goal.
That's
I mean,
goals and objectives.
I try to explain it like raising your children, right? You raise them up, you get them grown, and then they leave and go have their own kids, which is kind of the same thing. And I notice a lot of times, even after a swarm, that queen sometimes will get in there and start laying, and then they will kill her to make another queen, or they'll start immediately raising a superseded queen. So I wonder if that has something to do with the queen's pheromone, right? There's a change in the pheromone to where they swarm and then they supersede her right away, but they're also leaving a virgin behind, right? So they always have new queens going on in those situations, which I'm sure Tom, if anybody has something out on it, it'd probably be Tom Seeley.
They definitely, it seems that they have a tendency that if anything has gone wrong, it's the queen's fault, right? If anything goes wrong to a certain level, they replace those. So I see that after transportation of colonies. You pick up 100 colonies, transport them from this point to that point, drop them off, 10% superseders, right? Because that's weird. That's crash down the highway for hours or days. That's weird. That's stressful. And I think the bees think there's something wrong here, and it must be the queen's fault, right? That's just my guess.
Well, hopefully it's only the weakest queens that are getting replaced.
Well, hopefully. And when you introduce a queen, you do a candy cage introduction sort of thing. The queen gets out, and a day or two or 3 or 4 after the queen gets out, you go rifle through that colony, and there's a pretty good chance that they're going to ball and kill that queen because something's gone wrong. She's new, and something's gone wrong, so it must be her fault. That's kind of what I've been told, anyway.
Well, we always blame it on the queen. Everything's the queen's fault anyway.
Well, often it is. Often to replace the queen solves your problem.
Well, I know I've got a couple that I have to and just like that.
What's going on?
My daughter trying to call me. I'll call her back. But we've been going 45 minutes almost right now.
Well, I'm glad everybody stopped in to visit me in the woodshop. Kind of fun to have company, somebody to talk to. Because it's pretty boring otherwise.
Well, we do what we can.
I put YouTube up on the big screen and catch up on my videos. Yeah.
I've got 19 days until I'll be receiving the 25 queens from Jose.
Okay.
So I've got to
So in about a week to 10 days, you're going to start making splits.
splits right in the middle of the honey flow. Yay me!
Yay.
Unstack all the bombs. No, what I'm gonna do is take the nukes that I got and the nukes that I made, the splits, and that's where I'm gonna rob these from because they have the least boxes on them, right?
Yeah.
So make those splits. Look, give them a few days, knock queen cells down, then they can't make anymore, and they should be ready for those queens as soon as they come in.
Well, hope it all goes well for you.
Yeah, we'll see. Never does, but hopefully it will.
That's the spirit, Bob.
Well, you know, nothing ever goes 100% as planned, right?
No.
So even when I made all those splits and added new queens, I knew some of the queens would be duds, right? It just always is. And some of them don't take. And so you never get, even if you buy 25 queens, you're not going to get 25.
You know, and that's something about beekeeping that's so intriguing is, and it's a lot like woodworking in that way too, because half of woodworking is problem solving, and that's beekeeping. And you learn how to be a good problem solver, I think, by understanding bee behavior. You know, example, what did I do last summer when I made a mistake and I took those bees out of the building a day too soon and they depopulated? What did I do? I wasn't sure what to do, and Bob told me what to do. What did I do, Bob? What did he tell me?
Just shake bees in front of them. Let them walk in.
Yeah, I said, how am I going to get bees into these little nukes? Just get bees in there. And he said, go to some of your colonies, shake out young bees, and dump them on the ground in front of the hive. It's like, of course, I knew that, but I was blanking on that, right? And that's problem solving.
Well, I mean, I told you what I did in Ground Zero colony yesterday. And then after we talked, I was like, you know what? Not 10 feet away was 2 nukes that had 10 frames of drawn comb in it I could have added, but instead they got foundation down there, right? And it's like, well,
I do that kind of stuff all the time.
It's like, damn, why didn't I do that?
All the time. Yeah.
So that's
I go all the way to the shed and get a few boxes of comb and come out, and then I realize when I'm done my manipulation, I have a few boxes of comb left. It's sort of like, oh dear.
let me see. Well, I thought she would have been right up there, but she's not. Looks like Ricky has a big swarm up in a tree. So luckily, knock on wood, I don't have that right now. Usually after the flow, that's when I get mine.
Oh, I wish I had that problem.
Yeah, I think you're right there, DC. He said, in my opinion, to be a successful beekeeper, you need to learn to understand your bees and read your growing bloom season. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing is being able to read your bees and I mean, you can tell a lot by looking in a colony. And, you know, Brad showed me this winter. He said, yeah, go back 2 weeks and see what the weather was on the calendar. And that's why you had that brood break in there, you know, and understand what you're looking at in the colony. And once you can determine that, a lot of things you can prevent maybe not super procedure, but you can prevent some things from happening. And sometimes they're just hell bent on doing it either way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times it's like Well, I know what to do because I did it this way last year, and you do it, and it's like it doesn't
Yeah.
work. It's like I don't know. It
Well, you
worked
always
last
get
year.
that 2 week swing, right? It seems to be 2 weeks one way or another when things change. But I'm a firm believer that nature has a way of evening itself out. So if some things are blooming early now, then you'll get a cold snap, and things that would bloom if it continued the way it would, things that would happen earlier if it kept progressing, you'll get a cold snap or too much rain or something to prevent things from happening until it's regular time again.
I get that here. I get almost exactly the same yield every year, but it's different honey every year because it depends on, among other things, temperatures and moisture. So if we get a dry year, I'll have this kind of honey. If I get a wet year, I'll have this kind of honey. If I get a kind of a normal year, it's a little different. And my two main yards here are 3 miles apart, and honey will be different between those 2 yards, which is pretty surprising, I think.
So then is it safe to say the quantity of honey that you get, since you get the same amount every year, is based on the number of colonies and bees that you actually have?
Right.
But
Yeah.
the actual
When I
what
talk about yield, that's how many pounds per colony, which that
and
yield doesn't really change.
and what kind of honey you get, geographics and bloom. So
Yeah,
it
because the honey because the forage here isn't a crop that's sowed by somebody, right? So if you have a crop that's one kind of crop for a few thousand acres around you, and that's your nectar source, if the weather doesn't line up just right for that crop, then you're going to have nothing because there's nothing else there. It's only that one crop. Whereas here, it's diverse. There's
right,
all kinds of different flower. There's alfalfas in the hay fields. There's wildflowers everywhere. Lots of clovers and everything you can imagine here. And so, if it's a dry year, there's a particular kind of plant that'll do better in a dry year. If it's a wet year, then there's a different plant that'll do better in a wet year. So it really does even out that way with that kind of diversity. It's never as much yield as, like, most beekeepers who keep bees in this area would call it a crop failure because it's half to a third as much honey as a lot of people make.
right.
I don't make very much. It's really nice honey, but I don't make very much.
Still make more than I do, so pat
Well,
yourself on the back for that.
yeah, but the price is, the price is not the same either. So that's a difficulty, but that's just the row that I chose, right? I
Right.
could see that it was really, really nice honey. I could tell the yield was low, but then I just said, well, I'll market that as a premium honey. I charge a little more, but not that much, 10 to 20% more maybe. So, but with doing the retail game, the direct sale retail game, I can control my price. Whereas if you're doing a wholesale game, then it's commodity price,
Right.
and you're not in control of commodity prices. You are a victim of commodity prices, right? I don't like that. I've never been a fan of that. I know that's the way it has to be, but it is what it
DC
is.
said, but you are not parking hives on fields. If you've been to Brad's, his whole place is a field.
Yeah.
Everywhere around him.
Yeah, but it's
So,
mostly hay fields.
yeah.
It's not big canola crop kind of thing.
And that's got a trade-off too, right? So
Oh, sure.
putting bees on canola. Well, the canola makes a lot of honey, yes. But what is the honey used for? Primarily cream honey.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with canola honey per se, but it's certain properties. It's everyday honey, first of all. It's not, quote, special. And it won't stay liquid. I have stores that will buy my honey, my liquid honey, because it stays liquid a long time. So there's a customer for that, right? And you're not going to get that with canola honey. It makes a really nice creamed honey, though. Canola,
Right.
it'll cream itself. Really nice. Two more.
But Jim says there's no such thing as flat land where he lives. If it's flat, it's water.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, I mean, you could, I mean, hypothetically, you could have some, I mean, there's plenty of canola near where you're at. I mean, you could put it on canola fields, but
If I wanted to, I could seek out some canola field yards. I've built this business for 9 years on the honey I have, though, right?
right.
I've built it, and that's I've kind of painted myself into a corner, because if I can't produce it, I can't sell it. A lot of beekeepers, there's nothing wrong with this, will buy some honey from a producer from time to time to sell, because you can't always have, I can't expand my market because I don't have the product.
Right.
So if I wanted to go out and buy honey from somebody so that I could service my customers, I can't really do that because there's not really anybody else has honey that I could pass off as my production. But I'm not really looking to do that, but it's just
Right.
the fact that I've painted myself into that corner. It's not an option.
Let's see. Well, guys, we've been going for almost an hour now, and Brad's got work to finish up, and I've got stuff I got to do, but I really enjoy hanging out with you in the middle of the day and taking a break, sharing time with all the people in the chat over here.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad you guys drop in and say hi.
Alex just came in. He said, "Good afternoon and goodbye."
Bye, Alex. I said good day.
That's the thing. But anyway, guys, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us for a little while, and we'll see you guys on the next stream. Thanks.
See you, everybody.